So today, my friends, let's speak about something that affects us 24/7, how we live our daily lives. No business can function without a mission statement. We know that. The shortest mission statement ever written, what do you think it is? How many words? Well, in the Bible there is one. I shall dwell among you. The full sentence, the full verse goes like this: build for me a home, and I will dwell among you. Why is this so critical? Because in essence, it gives us the purpose of life stated in brief but extremely powerful terms. And that is, why are we here? We know we exist in a mundane world, in a physical world. We have many needs, from the most basic food, drink, oxygen, clothing, shelter, friendship, companionship, love, and the list goes on. That we must have for our lives. Then there are many things that we call luxuries, comforts, that may not be necessities, but we enjoy them. And whatever that may be, I'm not getting into the details now. But really, it defines what we do on a daily basis. Is that driven by purpose? Is it a mission-centric life? Not necessarily. I mean, it could be driven by bringing you happiness, maybe expressing your inner talents and skills, actualizing yourself, bringing love and kindness to the world around you. No doubt, all of us in our own way do that to some extent. But frankly, if you think about it, most of us fall into this position by default. It's not like we thought it through. We grow up in our homes, in our schools. We're taught different values, different ideas, and we try to integrate that in some way into our lives. Some of it is imposed upon us, some of it is against our will, and some of it is very much part of who we want to be like, things that we really value and consider to be important. And this defines especially our early formative years. We grow into adults, and now we have to make a living, and we have our social interactions, and we have our leisurely activities. But what drives it all? In most people's cases, it drives whatever makes me happy at the moment, whatever comes my way. It's rarely very deliberate. In building a business, yes, you make a plan, and hopefully you follow the plan with some goals in mind. But in our personal lives, now, most people will say, I'd like to find my soulmate, my partner, my significant other, my partner in life. I'd like to accomplish something. I'd like to make a mark in this world, in this universe. But here you have a statement that says you were sent, you were put into this physical world to accomplish something. And what is that? To build me a home. Who's me? Well, as you know, I like to avoid using the word God, not because I'm hiding anything, because the word is so filled and so jaded and filled with myths and distortions and stereotypes. What it really means is build for me some higher presence. Create a home, an environment, a place where I'm comfortable. Let's put it into very personal psychological terms. What does a real home look like? What does a home look like? Now, we know a home should have a roof over your head, should protect you from the elements, should provide warmth and shelter and security in a hostile world. But there are many levels of that. You can have a home that just gives you the bare minimum. Yes, it won't rain into your house. It won't snow into your home. But not necessarily it's a home filled with love. There are homes that are mansions where you have plenty of space, but you don't feel a reverberating sense of kindness, of love. I remember someone telling me, lived in France, grew up in a very wealthy home, said it was a beautiful home, but there was no one ever there. I had nannies. My parents were rarely there. And when they would argue with each other. It was like, I felt like it was like being in a prison, in a large gilded prison. A home is far more than just physical comforts and a physical environment. There's a certain comfort that you feel wanted. You feel like you belong. It's your hearth. Old people, no place like home in The Wizard of Oz. resonates. We want a home where we feel loved. We feel that we're unconditionally accepted. We're validated. A home where you feel continuously criticized, invalidated, attacked, and not feeling that you can just be comfortable in your own skin can be a physical house, but is it a home? So home, you could identify with words like comfort. And I mean comfort, not the comfort zone, but the security in the full sense of the word, not just physical security, emotional, psychological, and spiritual security. All of it combines together to create an environment where you can thrive, where you can blossom, a nest. And you feel wanted, and you feel like you belong. You don't feel you have to justify anything. And yes, there may be times that somebody may reprimand you, but overall, it's love that is echoing from one end of the home to the other. Every morning you wake up, you go to sleep. You just feel that state. When you go out of the door of your home, yes, you go into a more hostile, colder world, and then you come back home and you feel, again, that coziness, that comfort. So build for me a home really is to build a home for your soul, for your divine soul, for the best part of you. A place where you do not have to be justifying yourself, where you're not constantly on the defense and looking over your back because someone's there to criticize or someone is not pleased, where you're not performing, you just can be, like a child in its mother's womb, or like a child nurtured by unconditional love of its parents. You just are there. That creates the environment that you can be the best you can be. And instead of spending time on defense and fighting and battling for your own very space, because that space is so precious, because people constantly try and take something away from you, you really can focus on growth and expressing yourself and expressing and singing your song and spreading your wings and soaring. All that is included in what a true home is like. So we live in a mundane world, which is clearly driven by many interests. People want things. People expect things. You want something from me? I'll pay you for this if you do this for me. And it's a world of dog eats dog. Doesn't always mean necessarily it's always vicious and malicious, but it could be. But even at its best, it's a negotiation. You don't just get unconditional anything. There's no such thing as unconditionality. Things are always based on some negotiation, on some give and take. A home is meant to be a place where there is unconditional love. It's not based on any requirements. You just are loved for who you are. Not because of your performance, or your buying power, or your social status, or your looks, or your appeal. All those things are beautiful, but that's not what defines how you're accepted. So essentially, when God is telling Moses to tell the people, build for me a home, build for me a sanctuary, and I will dwell among you, is really saying, build in this material, hostile, dark world that is so often corrupt, driven by self-interest. Build for me a spiritual environment, a transcendent place. And not just in theory, not just when you're meditating or you're escaping on a mountain. Your very home, your heart and soul should be able to be comfortable in an environment like that. When you think about it, it's so refreshing, more than refreshing, it's revolutionary. Because we're never told, we're rarely told, I should say, that is the purpose of your life, to build that home. And you know what that means? By extension, it's not just the home. Then it creates an environment where you're comfortable. So then you shine with your unique light. You sing your unique song. The way you interact with people, instead of being on the defensive or always wondering what somebody wants, or am I being accepted or not accepted, you're able to spread your wings and really extend and express who you truly are. That's what a home creates. When you observe a nest, the little chicks, even as they're babies, they're protected. They're protected there by their parents. They're fed. And that builds the confidence that when they're ready to take flight, they have built the foundation. Many of us take flight in an environment where we have not necessarily been given all that comfort and nurturing. And that is all included in this concept. If you think about it, then ask yourself the question, what does your home look like? Did you grow up in a home of this nature? How can you build one? When you know what you're looking for, it's much easier to build than when just saying, I know what I'm lacking. So here we have not just what are you lacking, even if you may be lacking, you know what do you need to build. How do we build a home? You build a home first by being comfortable in your own self, by recognizing that the primary driving force that defines you is your soul, not your body. Yes, it's the body that is most obvious, that we all experience on our sensory level, what we see and what we hear and what we taste and touch and smell. The body is what other people see. But at the end of the day, you don't want people just judging you by your external projection, even if it's a beautiful one. You have an inner personality. What makes you tick? Who are you? In ways that are far more sublime. And in this world, we don't just want to have a home for the physicality of our lives. We want to have a home for our spiritual, our psycho-spiritual part of our lives. That our spirituality, our souls, our very personality and our psyches feel comfortable. So many people will say, I'm very comfortable in my home. I have a beautiful home. The heat is up. I can curl up in a warm bed. And other things that provide for me a certain element of warmth and comfort. But I ask you this question. Does your psyche feel comfortable? Is your personality comfortable? Are you accepted? Are you understood? Or are you have those skeletons and those ghosts and the fears and inhibitions and all the different forces that keep us trapped? So you can be physically comfortable but spiritually very uncomfortable. And a home requires a spiritual comfort, a psychological comfort. When you get that, that gives you the power to really achieve anything you set your mind to do. So it is ultimately discovering transcendence in a mundane environment. Now, why is that difficult, even though it sounds so appealing, is because the mundane, the physical, is often literally holds us in its tentacles. Not because of any malicious reasons, not because it's an enemy, but because by default, that's how it is. You wake up in the morning, what's the first thing you feel? You're hungry, you're thirsty, you're tired. Other needs you may have, because the body speaks to us in a language that we easily understand without effort. The soul, on the other hand, speaks in a far more sublime voice. Anxiety actually is a voice of the soul. Bodies are not anxious. Remember, a corpse without a soul, a dead person is not anxious. Sorry for sounding so morbid. So the very fact that you have consciousness means that you are aware. Now that awareness can serve us well. It could also serve us in a way of causing us pain. Existential pain, existential loneliness. Do you feel alone in this world? That means that your soul is not being fed. So you have to learn to discover what is your primary force, and you learn to nourish it. And you nourish it by creating that home. Now you may say, I don't have such an environment. You need to have friends that surround you, that you surround yourself with, that encourage that embrace you in that way. So it begins simple. Who do you surround yourself with? If you're around people who are constantly criticizing you, even if they're family members, trust me, that's not building a home. You need to begin small by first identifying individuals that you feel comfortable with. When you spend time with them, when you speak with them, they just accept you. You can speak to them, you can trust them. I know some will say, I don't have any such people. Maybe it's time to find such people. Because the other type, the ones that you cannot trust, or you always feel on edge or defensive, are definitely not going to help you build that home. Now, if you have loved ones, if you're a married person, you have a significant other, that's also a good place to begin with. Now, many people will tell me, well, that person I'm at battle with, where the tensions are too intense. What is that saying? How could that be? That tells you that the closest thing in your life, which is the home you share with another person, is a battle zone. Or maybe not as extreme as that, but definitely a place of tensions. So you need to do something about that. You can't just leave that be, because what that does is, besides the fact of creating this type of hostility, what is it doing to you? It has to put you on edge. It has to be constantly demoralizing and in some way draining your resources. So this is not a small matter. Of course, I can't speak to every situation. I know some people have very loving environments, and that's beautiful. If you have that, then you have your nest upon which to build. Then you can always learn to increase it. And not just increase it, but you also invite others in. Because remember, just as much as we need others, they also need us. All that is part of building that home. Now, what is transcendence when you think about it? It's like the very word dictates. It's something that transcends the immediate vicissitudes of the tug, of the ebb and flow, and the tug of the twists and turns, and the travails and trials and difficulties of our lives. That's what transcendence is. Some of us experience it through music, through art, through travel. Today, travel may have its own challenges. We experience it sometimes through literature, through love, through romance, through intimacy, through faith. It's critical to realize transcendence is not a luxury. Transcendence is a necessity because the soul thrives on transcendence. The whole point of building this home is to bring a transcendent force. It's a home for the transcendent. Put it into other terms. It's a home, building a home for the transcendent in your life. And realizing the transcendent, even though survival perhaps occupies more time. If you sleep 8 hours a night, it's around a third of your life. If it's 7 hours a night, a little less, but it's still pretty dominant. And then when you throw into that eating and drinking and shopping and grooming and all the other things that are there for necessary for survival, where's there room for the transcendent? But the transcendent is the primary force that all this survival is needed. Why are you surviving? Are you working to live or you live to work? You're not experiencing transcendence in order to be able to function and survive. You survive in order to be transcendent. And the transcendent is ultimately the fullest expression of your soul. Because the soul is like a flame that's always rising. And you're building a home for that flame. So then you think of the physical world, including your own environment, as being essentially a springboard, a means, an environment to create that beautiful home for your own soul, for the transcendent, for the divine, for the sublime. And that's the ultimate meaning. Build for me a sanctuary, build for me a home, and I will dwell among you. Not just in the sanctuary, in you. That's the most important thing of all. You know, when you meet someone that's comfortable in their own skin, you can feel it. There's a certain sense of ease. Some of us don't like it, especially if we ourselves are not in that place. But if you allow yourself to embrace that, allow yourself to value it, to be drawn to it, it can help you learn how to do the same. And ask someone who's like that, what makes you comfortable? Often it could be traced to the way they grew up, and they grew up in a true home. I remember in the early years when I began giving my Wednesday night class, which was the first stone, the first program that really led to so much of what I do today, the Meaningful Life Center. And I remember it was in my home. I had little children, 2 little children, and the class was on Thursday nights in those, before the Wednesday night class. We did it on Thursday night, but then we moved it to Wednesday night. So I remember thinking that the people coming, even though we had these long discussions, these marathon talks and conversations and debates and arguments about everything, about good and evil and spirituality and purpose in life and so on, and comparing different approaches, traditional approaches, non-traditional ones, you name it. I remember thinking about something that when the people would come to the class, so my children were going to sleep, and I saw that they were visibly touched by just seeing children being tucked in and put to bed. And I remember asking someone, because someone was like watching it, and I said, and he said, you know something? I don't ever remember such an experience. My parents were never home when I went to sleep. Either we put ourselves to sleep, or we had someone, or we had no one. And I realized that sometimes just the things that seem so simple, that seem so innocuous, don't seem very dramatic, can have more impact than everything I said in my class. I really believe that. That when you see that type of comfort, you see that type of unconditional acceptance and just someone being there for another, which is really what the art of healthy parenting is about, and really healthy love, is that you just allowed to be. A child is being put to bed, and the child grows up knowing that there's someone there for me. These small little things are not so small. They actually are the essence of creating a home. Now, it's never too late. Ask yourself, what can you introduce into your life that has that element? What you can do for another, just making them feel comfortable. And of course, what they can do for you. But it has to be in a way that goes naturally. It can't be based on conditions and based on negotiations. That's all part of the mundane, hostile world. What we need to do is introduce that type of element of love, total, unconditional acceptance. So that's the new revolution that we need to be creating in a world like ours. I really feel confident that we will get there. I've seen enough of heartbreak and misery, of broken homes, of broken promises, of shattered dreams. And I really feel that we're in a place where there's almost like a backlash. You know, when you hit rock bottom, it starts the boomerang effect. That there is a backlash. People are desperate for this. There's been so much of the other version, the pain, the abandonment, the loneliness, the lack of that type of unconditional love, that there is at times a collective type of exponential pain that causes us to say, enough is enough. I'd like to have that simpler version of just an accepted life. Technology in the modern world is neutral, but it could feed both ways. It could make things far worse, because instead of having relationships, it's just we have another technology. Or if used properly, it can be a tool to bring more warmth and love in this world. So I hope these words were meaningful. They're coming from my heart and hopefully enter the heart. So this is Simon Jacobson, Meaningful Life, and the lessons of building a home in this mundane, in this challenging, dark, and even hostile world. If you enjoyed what I said, please share it with others. And I'd love to hear your feedback, your thoughts, your comments, your suggestions. Simon Jacobson, Meaningful Life Center. Go to meaningfullife.com, where you can find a full schedule of events and programs addressing all types of different issues. Got a lot of feedback of my last Wednesday night class. Did the feminist movement kill feminism? And other topics, some more provocative than others, but addressing the issues that matter so much to our lives to be able to live a truly meaningful life. Everyone be well and be blessed. Thank you so much.